Welcome to this session of the Psychic and Intuitive Ability Summit. I'm glad you're here. I'm Joy Taylor, your co-host, and my guest for this session is Shanta Gabriel. And the topic is Journey of a Spiritual Warrior. And that she is. Shanta Gabriel began her studies in divine light transmissions and clairvoyance practices with her teacher from India in 1977. Her clairaudience studies with the Archangels began in 1988 with a surprise visit from Archangel Michael, and then expanded in 1990 with visitations from Archangel Gabriel. Her mission is to educate, inspire, and empower people to create a personal experience of divine love and infinite intelligence. Welcome, Shanta.
Thank you, Joy.
I couldn't help but notice 77 and 88. Those are some power numbers. So you have had an amazing life. And I really want to learn as we move through this session today more about you and also how we can fulfill that mission you talked about, each and every one of us to have a more direct experience of divine love and light in our lives. Yes. So 1977, what brought you to India?
Oh, actually, he was in Santa Cruz, California. And so I just happened along the way I was just traveling, and there it was on the door of this cafe, and I decided to go, and he invited everybody to come and meditate and judge for themselves. And so that's what I did. And then I was in ashram life for a number of years after that. So, it fit my sort of natural hermit, so that was the beginning.
And so this is a shaktipat type of a spiritual teacher.
Yes.
And maybe you could explain shaktipat.
Sure. He awakened the Kundalini energy, that flow of spiritual energy up your spine, with a look or a touch or a mantra phrase, because he was also a Brahmanad yogi. So he was actually the one that would chant. And when he would chant, all this energy would happen in the body to everyone.
And so that began, you say, your clairvoyance. What were some of those early experiences that started happening for you?
I would get visits from the different deities in the Hindu pantheon. And that was they always had a message or a lesson or something that would be super inspiring, and something that I would just use and just be awed by. And there were all kinds and he was also, he would do things that were just sort of miraculous, and so it just opened this ability to not be frightened of things that were unusual, and to open up to receiving spiritual energy, and the faith to know that we always are guided and directed in every moment.
I am so taken by faith these days.
Yes.
And yeah, so I'd love to hear more about how you grew your faith, and what happened. What were you doing during that period of your life? Were you actually teaching at that point, or did you later become a spiritual teacher?
It was much later. I was just a sponge at that point. And psychic sponge sometimes is not so good. So we had to learn a boundary system. I was also studying. I was studying holistic health and becoming a massage therapist, all those kinds of things. And he recommended that I didn't massage anybody else but him and the close devotees for a year. So there was a year where I just kind of kept from being such a sponge, psychic sponge. And so just being able to build the boundaries and build my capacity to receive more spiritual energy and have it in my body.
For people in the West, it's, it's different, this idea of actually living an ashram life and being engaged with a guru. And maybe you could talk about like what it means to really be a spiritual devotee or a disciple of a teacher, and how you also in that process, because I do know you are your own authority when it comes to your spiritual connection. But what was the power of having a teacher and being a disciple at that time, or a devotee?
I learned the value of service, because one of the most important things was to feed people, to serve others, to be able to know that whatever we needed was going to be provided. And we would, as a group, we would also do a lot of spiritual work. We did a whole training because he discovered that most of the people that were in our group were healers of some kind. And so he did a whole training in what was called Vajrapanjar, which means the shield of the thunderbolt, because he felt like people who had this healing capacity would also be able to heal the world. And so it was very important to learn these different skills in this. It was a several year training, about almost 2 years of training, to be able to chant with others and raise the frequencies enough to be able to radiate that energy of peace or light in different places where it was really needed. So it was surrender is one of the things that Americans are not real comfortable with. But in that time, and that, I think that I did learn to surrender not only to the energy of the ashram and my guru, but surrender to God's light working through me, surrender to the ability to just be amazed about the energy that's available and what we can really do when we put our hearts behind something.
So then how did you come into more of your own spiritual sovereignty, just to follow up on that?
He went back to India. He was quite elderly at the time anyway. He actually left his body in 93. But by that time, I had gone to massage school in Santa Cruz area. I lived in the ashram for a few more years, and then I was married, and he got a job in Hawaii, and so we moved to Hawaii. And so spiritual sovereignty came through teachings with unity, which was a very non-denominational but powerful metaphysical trainings. I had a teacher who was a body worker who could see into people's bodies, and in Hawaii, and I trained with him for a while. And I met this another American teacher who was a psychic and worked with me in development of that. And she was the one that told me about grounding. And so that was certainly not part of the ashram training. It was more, to get the energy and go up and out, and it didn't matter if you were, meditating for days on end, but to bring that energy back in the body and ground it was a whole new experience for me. And I really think it's such an important thing for us all to do right now, because it's just, we have a lot of energy pouring in on us now too. And we really do need, it's part of our path. And I think it's part of our work in the world. If we were born at this time, that we have a job to do. And it's not that we can't rest as much as we need to, but we also are bringing this powerful force of light into our bodies and bringing our souls through to connect with the earth. And that's big meaning for me.
This theme of grounding and embodiment has just been woven throughout the summit, because it is so important. And Well, I want to talk about the body and the light field technology that you teach. But before I do, you had talked about boundaries. You're bringing up so many important things. Surrender, boundaries, grounding. Can you just give us a little bit, like define boundaries in your world and maybe give a tip or a tool how people can have healthy, energetic boundaries?
So boundaries it has a sound to it, like we're afraid of what's around us and we've got to like protect ourselves. And I really discovered, especially around the time that Archangel Michael showed up, that we didn't have to be making boundaries because we were afraid, but we were making boundaries because we were so strong. We were getting so strong in our grounding, so empowered by our field. And so to know that there is this field all around us that holds the frequencies of light, that holds the frequencies of peace, of harmony, of love, of, all the things that have this presence that we really want to experience. And so I, one of the trainings, because after 88, then all these things kind of came as trainings through the archangels. And that one of the things that Archangel Gabriel talked about was creating a personal power field from all this energy that we have, brought into our bodies. And the personal power field had a shape like an octahedron. And so this octahedron shape is very special. This is a fluorite crystal. It comes in this shape, which I think is extremely powerful. So with a personal power field has 6 points. So above us, below us, all around our hearts, there's 4 points. And so the power field began by this. I didn't realize what the shape was at first, and then the platonic solids came through, and things that really noticed what the sacred geometry had as benefits, and so that was how the boundary system actually came into being, by this light field energy, where you visualize, because our imagination is so important for our intuition and so important for our ability to use the light that's here, because this light that has been prophesied for thousands of years is on the planet right now. And no matter what it looks like outside us, it's still this huge time of awakening all across the globe. So to bring that energy in and intend clearly for what you need, because if, for instance, if you're not feeling abundant enough, you need to create a sense of abundant flow, and to allow this abundant flow to come in and fill your octahedron shape, or this matrix of light that really can work for us. And then it becomes this radiant field that attracts energy. Now, one of the things Gabriel said is that a person who brings light into their body on a regular basis is actually transformative, and they become magnetic. They attract what they need, and they become radiant. So they give out the gifts that they have come.
So this light field technology, which I know is a core course and what you often teach, did this come mostly from Archangel Gabriel, or?
It did. There was a basis with my teacher, Nancy Shipley Rubin, who's in Hawaii and still is still working with this. But she's been really instrumental in explaining energetics in the worlds, because I only had the energetics from sort of another otherworldly state of being. And so it's, to find a teacher that, or find someone that can help us to ground and to bring these esoteric teachings into a way of life is really beneficial.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's all about. And I know that you and I share that in our mission statements, that it's to really make this a way of being, to make these spiritual practices a way of being. Okay, Archangel Gabriel has been giving you messages, and you have a card deck and all sorts of stuff with Gabrielle. So do you want to share the first time you connected, and maybe how do those messages come? I mean, we're talking about intuition and psychic abilities. There's a lot of people listening who are wanting to connect more with the angels or their spirit guides. So how did it happen for you, and how can people connect more with their guides?
Well, intention is everything. And before Michael came, I was having a clear intention for a new path for my work. I had no interest in angels, of course. I was, steeped in the Hinduism and metaphysics, but I had not really an interest in angelic things. And in fact, I was wanting to be more grounded and more, purposeful and practical and that kind of thing. And so that was what I was asking for. And then Michael showed up, who was just, this huge light being with wings that went out the ceiling. And, it was just insanely scary. And so I pretty much ignored him for a year or so. He would show up in my healing sessions, but, I was not focused on him at all. But people talked about all the golden light that they noticed, in my healing sessions. But the real depth and meaning and purpose of the archangels didn't come until Archangel Gabriel showed up in my room one time when I was meditating. And once again, it was like the room was vibrating, and this huge golden figure showed up in the corner, and his wings went out the roof. A cathedral ceiling, that's actually a big thing to have happen. But his eyes just melted my heart. And in the process of communicating, I could hear him. I mean, I could hear what he was saying to me. And I did write, well, I didn't start writing it down, but I could hear it. And then he told me that if I would use this alignment method that would bring the energy all the way through the chakras and ground, that I would be able to listen and receive his messages. And so that's what I started doing at that time.
Could you guide us through that meditation?
So I'm just taking a nice deep breath right now. I'm feeling this grounded presence from the base of my spine down into the earth. And I call on the light from the highest source there is. I invite this light, this pure golden light, to come through my body, right through the core of my being, and ground in the base chakra. Feeling that deep-rooted system of connection to nourishment, to well-being. I breathe in that energy and I allow it to move up my spine, creating beautiful well-being and a sense of creative solutions and unity consciousness, the second chakra, moving up into the third chakra, moving into the solar plexus, feeling the strength and protection and courage of this center in the solar plexus, which empowers the heart and brings that connection to the Taurus field that is energizing, that never ends, the energy that continues to work in and through our hearts, empowering our voice through that connection to bring compassionate truth into our world, and allowing our third eye chakra to open up and bring illumination and insight and inspiration, and empower this field that allows wisdom to flow through us, bringing our soul's presence all the way through the body. And we know that this core energy is the light in whom we live, move, and have our being. And all that we need is here for us now with grace and ease. And we are loved eternally. And so it is.
Yeah, such a nice practice that we can each do in a very short period of time, but bringing awareness to that chakra alignment.
Yes.
So thank you, Shanta, and thank you, Archangel Gabriel. You changed your name to the last name Gabrielle, and you also at some point did get a divorce. I know you're not married, so I don't know if they happened at the same time, but what was the transition leading that relationship? And because that's real world. That's the real world stuff we're talking about.
World. It's a series of events, of course, and so I think that I'll just sort of start about how it started, because this is a faith training for real. And the important thing was that I had this beautiful business. It was based on creating peace in the world, one person at a time, which was not a phrase that was around at that time, and so it was something that I thought Gabriel brought in, and I had this lovely business called Angelic Dimensions, and I wrote a book, and a card set was published, and then it just, one of the things I should have possibly asked for if I had met you at the time was to ask for a prophet. Would have been really useful. And so I was just asking for peace in the world, and that's the dedication that I had. So then we had everything just started collapsing. So in 1 year, my appendix burst, my business went bankrupt, we lost a house, had a car accident, and then my husband found a new wife. And so it all was at one time, and it was just in 1998, 9, right there. And it has a whole nother piece of the story before I got to the, can I tell you that too? Do we have time?
As we're listening, this is what we talked about, how to make spirituality practical. So please, yeah.
And I wrote a message to Archangel Gabriel. I just said, what is it that I need to do? What can I do to turn this around? And he wrote back, and he said, just when did you think you would need faith? And, on some level that didn't feel helpful, but it was absolutely right. And in fact, I really wanted to make a bumper sticker, because you just, when you could say every single word and it would all have like power, did you think you would need faith? Did you think you would need faith? Or faith was such an important part of this whole training right then. And it was just before the millennium change. And I was invited to come to a spiritual retreat center in Michigan. Now I lived in Hawaii. So coming to Michigan, of course, I went in the fall, which it was all beautiful and gold and, it's all that. But then there was a lot of snow, and there were a lot of teachings on that place. But one of the things was that I was sitting by this river there, before I actually made the commitment to move over there to the mainland from Hawaii. And I was praying to every teacher, every deity, anybody I could call in, I was calling them all forward and asking that I needed really clear guidance on whether I should go to this place. And because, it was, everything was already collapsed, it was just be the sort of the end result, right? And so I did this really powerful prayer, and I got this really clear message that said, you will not fulfill your spiritual destiny unless you come to this place from October 1st to January 15th. And I kind of came out of the meditation and I went, wow, that is really precise. And how do I know it's not just my mind telling me this? Or, that's obvious, it is, but there had to be more. And so I asked for a sign. I said, something really clear, something really physical that I could see, so that I would know that this is the truth for me. And I got up from the river and walked back on the path that was going back to, because there was 800 acres surrounded by national forest. So it was like very wild. I started back on the path, and just at that moment, I was completely covered in butterflies. It was like they were walking down my face. They were all over my arms and hands, and then they just like picked up and flew away. It was kind of amazing. And I wish I could say, oh yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that did it. Thank you, God. But I said, well, that was really good. But I just want one more little message, please, just to show me another sign this is really true. And at my feet, there was a little puddle, and these two blue butterflies and a yellow butterfly came and flew down and landed right at my feet. And I had never seen blue butterflies or yellow at that point. And so I just went, okay, I surrender. This is good. And so I was there at the retreat center for about almost 2 years. And it was a Yogananda center. So it was the very, very autobiography of a yogi. And I took my yoga training, and then shortly after I arrived, I heard that it was clear we were going to get a divorce, and my husband was deeply in love with this other woman, and so the divorce happened. It was very treacherous in a place like that, with no support, really, spiritual support, which was big, but lawyers not so much. And so it happened, and then they were going to get married, and this was like about, I don't know, the week after the divorce was final is when they were going to get married. And there was, and I actually went down by the river, which was always a good place to go, to just, be there during the time that I knew that was happening. And there was this gorgeous, beautiful angel cloud in the sky. And it looked so much like a perfect angel. It really was. And I have a picture that just meant a lot, And then I realized that there was going to be a new Mrs. that I didn't want to have the same name, and so I applied to the court and went through, and I needed to have. My guru gave me the name Shanta, and it was, back in a time when so I've been Shanta longer than I was anything else, and so. Then I had some friends in Canada who sent me the last names, 2,400 surnames that all went with Shanta energetically. And one of them was Gabriel. And so I just went, well, obviously, I only have to go through the G's. I don't even have to go any farther. That's the one, And so I went and applied for a court change. And the judge said, well, why do you want to have why do you want to change your name? And I said, well, my husband is getting married next week. And he said, okay, granted. So then that really became, in some ways, it was like a unity. inside me, with the teachings of archangels, with the beings of light that are always with us, with this sense of foundational strength inside me, this unity, this deep feeling of and grounding. And so that's what I did.
Well, and strong you are. I mean, you have had such a full life as a spiritual warrior. And recently you even went through a health challenge, which I'm sure you needed to rely on a lot of strength for that. And I find it inspiring. And could you share a little bit about this most recent journey you've been on?
Yes. On January 6th of 2022, I had the experience of what I'm going to call a stroke of faith, where my body had a stroke. And it was something that I actually was not aware of what it was. I didn't go to the hospital right away. I didn't do all the things you're supposed to do. And it was, it immobilized my right leg and my right arm. One of my teachers said it blanked out my formative mind. So cognitively, it was interesting. It was like, a lightning bolt that came through and just wiped out everything. And I mean, I had my memories. I had my, I didn't know if anything was going to be here, after that. And so it was months of getting back and getting into not sleeping so much as I was, and because it's brain fatigue is a real thing, and also I have been sleeping really well for the first time in 25 years. I wouldn't ask for this to be the purpose, but it's been a real walk in faith at this point to know that, is this all there is? Would this be the end of my life? Because my work was impossible. Using the computer was difficult. My writing still is difficult because, you can't really read it. And I used to have gorgeous handwriting. Everybody could read it. And it's also really affected my ability to communicate with people, with the archangels. I know that I am absolutely guided and directed every moment. I know that there is a flow of light going through me at all times. I know that I am being guided and directed, and I don't exactly know how to bring messages through the way that I did before. And so, because I always wrote, that was my method. And so I know that there's still guidance coming in when I lead meditations, when I'm in my classes. If I'm not just giving information, like talking about the science of the heart or something, I'm not very good at that anymore. But my intuition is stronger. All of the trainings that I've had, the experiences that I've known, everything that I've had is integrated deeper. And that's coming through more. So at this point, I am, just authentically who I am. and there are no secrets. It's just, this is what it is. And I feel fortunate that I'm still in my body, reasonably healthy, that well-being is a really important part of what I teach, and that it's that we need to take care of ourselves so well nowadays, that sense of self-care is extremely important. And that's the story.
The stroke of faith. And it's cool that we just keep bringing back faith. And so at this point in your life, what do you have faith in?
Well, I have faith in this higher power that is working in and through us at all times, that this is a flow of energy, of light, that I call the river of all creation, that it's there, and we sit in that energy, we breathe that energy, we're like fish in the sea of this ocean of light, and that we can direct that light in the where we want it to go with our intentions, with our clarity, and it flows with us. And so I have faith that that is all possible, that everything that we need is here for us. And it's our focus of attention on these intentions that helps us to keep really directed. And everything that has meaning and purpose to me, that's what has value.
And so now, what is your life like now, Shanta? And what are you focused on sharing and teaching with all of your students?
Well, I still have, for the last, since 2010, I have had this free weekly newsletter based on the Gabriel Messages cards and book. And it comes out every Sunday. So that is strong and important and has meaning and purpose for me. I have I started calling it a master heart group. So it's not exactly a mastermind group, but I have a group that we clarify our intentions together, and then we get together on new moon and full moon to really activate them. So I have this membership. I'm teaching forest bathing at this arboretum here on the island, because I live on Martha's Vineyard now, and I moved in COVID in 2020, drove across country. That was kind of big, and so there's just finding a home in a new area and being really able to create from my soul's presence is really important for me. Having a grounded presence that really allows myself to speak from a state of the heart, speak from my soul's inspiration is essentially what I'm doing. Sometimes I speak Californian more than I speak Yankee. And so there's a little bit of a clarity function moving on that. And just taking these incredible teachings that I have been fortunate enough to receive all my life and take them into the world in a different way, so that there's still purpose and meaning for who I am and what I have to share. And that's what I want to do.
And you're doing it. And how can people get in touch with you? What's your website?
The website is shantagabriel.com.
All right. Good for you. Oh my goodness, Shanta, you are a legacy, and you're leaving such a legacy at some point. And meanwhile, you're living it and developing it and inspiring so many of us. You've had years of spiritual training, and it's felt. So I am honored and so grateful that we had this time together. Do you want to leave with any last comment for everyone viewing today?
One of the message cards came through this idea, and I didn't choose one for us, but it says you are always receiving the light, whether you tune in or not. So, it's like we can't doubt that we have this presence working in and through us all the time. And it's nice if we can tune in and do a little meditation and breath work and take some quiet moments, which seems to be hard to do sometimes. But that it's always available for us. And this is the light of the most divine source, with infinite intelligence and divine love working with us all the time, because that's in the light.
And so it is. Shanta, thank you.
Thank you, Joy. It's lovely to see you.
And I want to thank everyone for joining us. And I hope you enjoyed and soaked in this conversation in the Psychic and Intuitive Ability Summit.